Feminists all across the country observed what they called Equal Pay Day this past week. Senator Hillary Clinton marked the occasion by reintroducing the Paycheck Fairness Act. It's legislation designed to force employers to pay women what they pay men. More than 40 years after Congress passed the Equal Pay Act, the debate is still raging. At the heart of it is a single, often repeated statistic, that women earn just 76 cents for every dollar that a man makes. The notion is so pervasive, so unchallenged, it's become a cultural given. Everyone knows it's true. But our first up guest argues that, no, it isn't true. Warren Farrell is a longtime feminist, the only man to be elected 3 times to the New York City board of the National Organization for Women. He spent years protesting the wage gap between the sexes. But a new look at the numbers has changed his mind. His latest book is entitled Why Men Earn More. Mr. Farrell, thanks a lot for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So, deconstruct the myth. Why isn't it true, the Labor Department statistic, that women earn just 76 cents on every man's dollar? Why is that not true?
Well, because there's basically 25 things that are different between what men do in the workplace and what women do in the workplace. Every single one of those 25 things leads to men earning more money, but every single one of those 25 things leads to women having better lives. So here I have a 17 and 18-year-old daughter. I'm saying to myself, what do I want to help them earn more money, or do I want to help them earn a better life, have a better life? And I realize that what I want to help them do is make their own decisions about how much money, how many trade-offs do I make.
So you're saying that when the Labor Department comes up with these numbers, they're not comparing apples and apples?
They're definitely comparing apples and oranges. For example, and I started to come to this understanding when I was here in the middle of doing a demonstration, assuming that the gap in numbers was a gap that was reflective of discrimination. And I say to myself one day, wait a minute, if men earn $1 for each 76 cents that women earn for the same work, why would anybody hire a man to do anything? And I couldn't answer the question. And then I thought, well, wait a minute.
It's a great question, actually.
It's sort of like, I stumbled myself. But then I thought to myself, no, wait a minute. Maybe these male bosses are so discriminating against women that they don't value women enough, and they don't even see the importance of what women are producing. So I looked at the statistics about women who own their own business. They have no bosses to devalue them. And women who own their own businesses only earn 49% of what men who own their own businesses earn.
They earn less.
They earn less. So in other words, having a boss is an advantage for a woman. So then I started to say, well, maybe there's a difference in goals between men and women. And sure enough, then I began to get on the right track. When you ask women who own their own businesses what their primary motivation is, way down the list is money. Only 29% say money is their primary motivation. Men, 76% say money is their primary motivation. So I began to see that when women own their own businesses and when women do work, they're balancing their chores with the family with their chores in the workplace. The women who own their own businesses say, I want to be home, I want to be my own boss, I want to have flexibility with the family. And men who own their own businesses say, if I have children, then I want to be earning more money. If I don't have children, I want to be home. So that gave me another thought. I said, well, wait a minute, maybe I should look at the difference between people who have children and people who don't. So I looked at never married women who have never had children and compared them to never married men who had never had children, and found out that never married women who never had children earn 117% of what never married men who never have children earn. In other words, when you take the children, the motivation for men to earn money out of the picture, men earn less in the workplace than women do.
And children are also the motivation for women to stay home.
Exactly. So you have, and so when you have never married women who have never had children, you find those women are making decisions a lot more like men. Never married men who have never had children, they're making decisions a lot more like women. So it's the decisions we make in the workplace that lead to the incomes we get from the workplace.
They're making decisions, women who have never had children are making decisions more like men, but they're making more. Why is that? Why are they making 116% of what men make?
It appears that there's a number of things happening. One is that, let's say you're an engineer.
And do we need legislation to address this?
To correct that?
Yes.
Well, we may need legislation to help men earn equal to women when they're making the same decisions. I mean, that's a possibility. The Paycheck Fairness Act may end up helping many men. I mean, there's many men that are, so for example, you asked the question about why would a woman be earning more?
Yes.
So let's say you have in engineers, almost all female engineers earn more at the beginning than males do at the beginning of their career. If you're an engineering firm and you have mostly males, and a woman comes to apply for you, the chances are fairly good that a lot of engineering firms are competing for her. So and if you're sued for gender discrimination, you're going to be a lot better off having a fair number of women that you've hired than you are if you have no women that you've hired. And so both affirmative action and protection against lawsuits leads many companies to giving a special advantage to women and therefore paying them more at the beginning.
So it's an artificial boost.
It's an artificial boost, exactly.
So men and women want different things from work, is the bottom line.
Yes, exactly. And well, they want different things. Actually, we all want the same thing from work and from life. We all want fulfillment. We want fulfilling jobs. We want meaning. We want a sense of balance. We want to be connected with people and family. But when men and women have children, they start dividing labor and getting those things for their family differently. So when they have children, the women say, okay, I have to be more at home and I have to do a balancing act. You know, we used to say in political campaigns, is the economy stupid? Well, if you were to summarize why men earn more in one little sentence, it's the family stupid.
I have to say this is also wonderfully obvious and intuitive.
Yes, yes.
What is the effect of Congress getting involved? For instance, Mrs. Clinton, Senator Clinton, as we said at the outset, has reintroduced legislation to force employers to pay the sexes the same. Is that a good idea, bad idea? What do you think of that?
Well, it would be a good idea. First of all, it's a bad idea, basically. I mean, because it misses so much in terms of supply and demand. So, for example, if you're saying we should pay male models the same as female models, well, we'd have to take the pay of male models and increase them by 500% because female models get about 5 times what male models get.
And porn stars. Male porn stars. I read National Review this week make like 1/3 of female porn stars, and that's fair.
Yes, yes. I mean, because of supply and demand.
Who wants to see a naked man? I agree.
Yeah. And if you had somebody like me, if somebody said, Warren Farrell's been working in gender issues for 30 years, therefore you must pay him as much as Gloria Steinem, well, the effect would be that nobody would hire Warren Farrell because nobody cares about Warren Farrell speaking versus Gloria Steinem. So you have to look at the degree to which people want something. A garbage collector, we're going to pay a garbage collector more than somebody who's working at Walmart selling clothing because we need our garbage picked up more than we need somebody to sell us clothing at Walmart's. And so the supply and demand leads to different outcomes, that comparable worth and equal pay being forced upon people.
Let's have one more question. We had this person at the back in the stripes. Yeah, let's hear from you.
During the dating period, you know, after like 4 or 5 months of dating, I'm just wondering at what point do you have to pay, do the women have to pay when they go out? The guy is asking that there should be half and half at that point when you already...
At what point?
When you already been dating for 4 or 5 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, okay, to give you a quick answer on, firstly, I think we should just deal with the who should pay thing to begin with. When you're on a date, who should pay?
I know. I mean, that's what I told them. You know, I'm sorry.
But
I would say, I'm dating. We're dating.
But here's the
gentleman here.
Okay. He's supposed to pay.
Yeah, that's what I told him.
But you're supposed to have sex with him whenever he says.
No. Whenever both.
Where does this double standard come from? I'm sorry, it's the reality. You guys can moan at it all you want, but the moment you say to a guy, you have to fucking pay for my time, you're saying this relationship isn't equal. This relationship isn't equal. My time is worth more than yours, so you should pay for it. I wonder what paradigm that sets up. Here's my view. If you go on a date with a guy and you don't offer to pay your share, you weren't taught right. If you go on a date and he doesn't pay, he wasn't taught right. I can tell you right now, if I was dating someone and they never offered to pay, I wouldn't be dating them. I can tell you that now. If they never offered to pay, I would not be dating them because I'd say, this is the most polite they're ever going to be. And they're not even trying to pay now. What does that say about my future? But look, let me come at this from a different angle. I will always treat my partner how I would treat my best friend. And I wouldn't apply a different standard to my partner than my best friend. I wouldn't say to my best friend, let's always go out to dinner and you always pay. I'd say, let's be teammates here in whatever way we can. And maybe, by the way, proportionately, what you can do is less than what he can do. That's a different thing. If he says to you, I want to go stay at the top hotel in Big Sur this weekend, and it's $1,500 a night, and you say, I don't have the money. It's his job to say, it doesn't matter. I didn't do it so you could pay. I did it because I want to go and I want to take you. Great. That's what that is, right? Or if you both agree to go on holiday and you have a fifth of his earning potential, you say, I want to contribute to a fifth of this holiday. It's overly simplistic, but you get what I'm saying, right? I'll contribute on the level I can contribute. Let me tell you what means something to a guy. Trying. That means something to a guy. When he feels that you're not even trying to contribute, that's when he feels used. Because any guy who's really confident and self-respecting, if the woman never is even trying to contribute, he feels like he's being taken advantage of. And it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the lack of gesture. So I would be looking at, if you like this guy, maybe if you're in different positions, figure out what you want to contribute proportionately or what you can contribute proportionately and treat him as you would your best friend.
Now, one of the women at the forefront of this video is apologizing.
MU Communications professor Melissa Click released a statement this afternoon. KOMU8's Colin Ruane is here in the studio with her reaction along with the reporter who shot that video.
And you know, this is video that gained national attention pretty quickly from outlets like NBC, CNN, and so many others. And despite Click's strong message seen in that video, she's now changing her tune and saying she's sorry.
I need some muscle over here.
The MU professor who has gained national attention is now backtracking one day after this video went viral. In a statement released this afternoon, MU Communication Associate Professor Melissa Click said in part, quote, I regret the language and strategies I used and sincerely apologize to the MU campus community and journalists at large for my behavior and also for the way my actions have shifted attention away from the students' campaign for justice. This statement comes on the heels of the widespread demonstrations credited with the resignations of former UM System President Tim Wolf and MU Chancellor Arbo and Lofton.
I posted it to draw attention to the issue of free speech on this particular campus.
Earlier Wednesday, KOMU8 News spoke to the student reporter who shot the now viral video. Mark Schierbecker tells us he did not expect the attention to be so widespread. He also defended what he says was his First Amendment right.
The reason these tents are allowed to be here is because we have the right to assemble.
In her prepared statement, Click said she apologized to one of the reporters from the video over the phone today, saying, quote, I believe he is doing a difficult job, and I am grateful to have had the opportunity to speak with him. Now, the communication department had also released a statement earlier today regarding that incident, but said it could not comment on personnel matters. The initial video of the confrontation now has more than 1.2 million views.
The executive director of the advertising firm Saatchi & Saatchi has been put on leave after claiming that the debate about sexism in the workplace was all over. Kevin Roberts said he doesn't spend any time thinking about gender issues, despite the fact that just 11.5% of advertising agency directors are female. Well, he said women's ambition was not vertical, but rather an intrinsic circular ambition to be happy. So women say, we are not judging ourselves by those standards that you idiotic dinosaur-like men judge yourself by. I'm just not worried about it because they are very happy, very successful and doing great work. And he concluded that he couldn't talk about sexual discrimination because his company had never had that problem. Well, joining me now to discuss this, The Guardian's columnist Dawn Foster and Peter Lloyd, author of Stand By Your Manhood. Welcome to you both. If I can ask you first, Dawn, is Kevin Roberts correct in saying that the debate about sexism in the workplace is entirely over?
No, not at all. I mean, I genuinely think at this point, the fact that he's been made to leave so quickly shows that we're finally getting to a point where it is being taken seriously. I think it just shows a complete lack of responsibility to say that the reason why there aren't that many women in top spots is because they don't want it enough. It's simply because of structural sexism that starts, in schools, carries on through universities, and we see it in all aspects of society. I mean, the fact that we have Theresa May as only the second female Prime Minister shows that we still have a problem. Whereas somebody like Kevin Roberts, for instance, would point at her and say, look, there's one woman at the top. Clearly, she's the only woman who's ever wanted it, and there isn't a problem. But I think the fact that Saatchi and Saatchi have been so quick to push him out and make light of the fact that his comments are very, very unnecessary shows that we might actually be getting somewhere, and his sort of views are increasingly being seen as antiquated rather than the ones that he describes as antiquated.
Peter, do you agree with the views of Kevin Roberts?
Surprisingly not, no. With Kevin Roberts, yes, I do. I don't agree with Dawn's comments. I think, what he was saying is true. Men and women are biologically different, and they have different life choices. What he was actually saying in his comments were that the reason a lack of women at the top isn't a problem at Saatchi and Saatchi is because they have the opportunity to be there and they haven't taken it. These are choices that women should be free to make, and men should be free to observe them without fear of a witch hunt. It's as simple as that.
Do you think, though, that he can realistically speak for all the women at Saatchi and Saatchi and speak for them and voice their opinions that they're not wanting to aspire to more senior positions?
Well, he was just speaking in a general term. He was just having a relatively casual conversation with a journalist. And it's clearly been spun all out of control. It's almost been manipulated on Twitter into this very predictable furore, which is just ridiculous. It's predictably irrational. What he was saying reflects the majority of women's attitudes to work and family. They have a different approach to balance, to having children and having a career. It's something that men don't have. And he was just stating a fact and his experience. The fact that he has been suspended from his job is shameful. It's ridiculous.
I suppose it's quite a simplistic argument, the one that he put forward. I mean, he doesn't account for the fact that women have to think about childcare, but perhaps that has a bearing on where they aspire to be in their careers. He didn't really come across or mention that, did he, Dawn?
No, not remotely. And I think that, Kevin Roberts' argument and Peter's argument is very, very simplistic. I mean, a lot of women are extraordinarily bored of people like Kevin, people like Peter, telling us what we want constantly. A lot of women I know have worked in advertising, some at Saatchi and Saatchi, and they found it absolutely unbearable. They found it rife with sexism, rife with overt sexual discrimination, harassment, but also a kind of sexism intrinsic in the hiring and firing that happened. And also, the problem is at the moment in Britain, childcare is very expensive. Women biologically carry children, so often they find that it's almost impossible for them to go back to work afterwards. I've spoken to dozens of women who have had to take their employers to tribunal because they've been sacked while pregnant, etc. And these women want to go back to work. They want to be the breadwinner, and they want to work and provide for their children that way rather than be at home.
Well,
but actually, society isn't going to let them.
They can do that if they want to.
No, they can't, because they have been sacked from their jobs. Once you've been sacked from a job, you can't go back in. That's as simple as that. And statistics have borne this out. More women than ever have been let go because of pregnancy discrimination. Discrimination exists even if you don't want it to, Peter.
Well, that is a slightly separate issue. What we're talking about is there a secret glass ceiling? Is there a secret plan to keep women down? No, I hate to break it to you, it's not all about you. It's not all about women. People just want to get on with their jobs and have successful careers.
But Peter, how then do you account for the low numbers of women in these senior positions then?
Well, for exactly what Mr. Roberts said, life choices. There are plenty of professions where women dominate. Look at medicine, look at veterinary science. If women want careers and to dedicate themselves to that, they can.
Actually, once they get to 40, women are forced out yet again. If you look at Jeremy Hunt's... Yes, if you look at Jeremy Hunt's, contract, one of the main reasons why people were angry with it was because it discriminated against women. Women are often forced out as soon as they have children because they can't afford childcare and because they're often sacked or dismissed.
Peter, you're shaking your head, but there are examples of women who really testify to this story of not being able to return to work and being treated differently because they've decided to start a family. Even women that have attended job interviews and been asked illegally whether they wanted to start a family.
Well, I think it's this kind of conversation is, and the rhetoric that we hear from feminists all the time, is so patronising to the plenty of women who have children and still have careers and go on to thrive. You know, so to assume that all women are victims as soon as they have children is ridiculous.
Hello, I am obsessed with the show Naked and Afraid, and that show teaches you everything you need to know about feminism. It also teaches you everything you need to know about the differences between men and women and the general problem with Western culture today. And Bill Whittle talks about this. He says that the solution to America's problems is to spend 3.5 days in the woods. And that would show us how hard it is to survive and how lucky we are to have everything we have. Naked and Afraid encapsulates this sort of arrogance we all have about how great we are. We have all these campaigns to promote our self-esteem, and our self-esteem is way too high, and women's self-esteem is way too high. They think they can do anything. They all think they're LeBron James. They kick ass, and there's no challenge they can't handle. And when I see this show, I see, oh no, actually, we're not that tough. We're not that great, and women aren't the same as men. Now, when you say this to people who haven't thought about it before, aka liberals, they say, oh, sexist pig, Western chauvinist asshole Gavin McInnes is a caveman who wants to hit women on the head with a club and drag them back to the cave because he says men capture big game and women nurture around the cave. That is generally the truth, okay? Women do tend to those rules. And liberals, I want to explain something to you that's very basic that you don't seem to get. There's general and there's universal. Generally, men and women adapt to their biological roles. These are biological roles that we see in chimps too. Baby chimps like to play with trucks that are, when they're male, baby chimps that are female like to play with dolls. Generally, that is the same with male and female human beings. Universally, of course, there are exceptions. So just because you found a survivalist who kicked ass on Naked and Afraid doesn't destroy my point. In fact, one of my favorites was Alana Barfield. She was a Gucci salesperson who we all assumed was going to totally fail, and she kicked ass. She was amazing. However, a far more typical episode and a more representational depiction of the way men and women are would be Bo Stewart and Debbie Harris. I think this was on the 40 Days or Nothing episode, the XL one. They've got all kinds of different variations, and this one was different teams competing for 40 days. Now, the Bo Stewart and Debbie Harris team were awesome because she is so proud of herself before and after for surviving. Before, she was wearing a shirt that said, "I will thrive." And this guy is a U.S. Army Special Forces officer with teenagers. She's a mother of young children. What the hell are you doing going out there, lady? Why are you trying to prove this point? You have kids. You're risking diseases. You're risking death. Why are you going away from your kids for 40 days? When I'm away from my kids for 5 days, I feel like I'm getting chemotherapy. And I'm a dude. She's a mom. It's baffling, and it can't be the money. This is reality shows. They pay maybe $1,000 a month at best. They usually just pay the wages you're missing by being away from your job. Anyway, Bo Stewart's a totally different case. Special Forces officer, and I like the idea of him being out there. First of all, his kids are teenagers, so they're not going to miss him that much. Yes, he's taking a risk. The guy takes a risk every day. That's his job. He's an Army brat. His dad risked his life every day. And I like seeing that kind of guy on TV because we're depicting soldiers wearing red high heels, and we're having women do push-ups as the Marines, and there's pictures of the Marines saying, "We are proud, Army strong," and it's some woman in a dress holding a clipboard. I prefer the Bo Stewart image of America's military out there. But here is a typical example of how that episode went.
It's just disgusting, but there's no other food option, so gotta take what you can get. You want them?
Go ahead. No, keep going until you start feeling better. Yeah. So.
Kind of tastes a little bit like coconut, but like oily.
What a Sir Thriver she is, huh? She dared to eat one of the many things he caught her. That whole episode was her saying thank you and sitting there in the cave as he went out and got food. He caught a caiman, a baby caiman. He caught big fish. They ate together. And they came back. She's all proud of herself. She's an inspiration. Her poor kids barely know her when she comes back. 40 days? And they both, he got leishmaniasis. He almost lost his ear to this disease. And they were getting bit by these sandflies that carry diseases. Why did she take that risk? What is she proving? Whatever she set out to prove as far as kick-ass, badass feminists go, she proved the opposite. She proved my point, that men and women have predetermined roles.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
I support Hillary because she understands women's issues.
I stand with Hillary because as a woman, she understands.
She understands we need to make the internet a safe space, free from criticism, so women will no longer be silenced online.
No longer will men earn 100% more than women for the same job. The same job.
She knows we have a rape epidemic across the nation because 1 in 1 women are sexually assaulted on campus every single day.
I support Hillary because she will create safe spaces for people of color, away from white people. Their own schools.
Their own buses.
Own water fountains.
Own benches. Because she's a progressive who gets things done.
I stand with Hillary because she will make rape illegal. Unlike those rape-publicans.
I'm supporting Hillary because she will make being a woman legal again. She won't judge me when I get 30 late-term abortions on purpose.
But most of all, I support Hillary because she has a vagina.
This morning, shall we be? Because a liberal student there, Sandra Cohn, has penned a piece which is raising the eyebrows of a number of individuals this morning. She had written a piece around the idea that we should get rid of academic freedom in favor of academic justice. She is sick and tired there at Harvard of dealing with research that comes out, which may counteract her own viewpoints of life. She can't stand when academic research comes out that doesn't support her liberal ideology.
Yeah, she's a senior there, and the title of this piece is "The Doctrine of Academic Freedom. Let's give up on academic freedom in favor of justice." She's a women's studies and gender equality and that type of advocate as well. Well, if our university community opposes racism, here's what she says: sexism and heterosexism, why should we put up with research that counters our goals simply in the name of academic freedom? Instead, I would like to propose a more rigorous standard, one of academic justice. When an academic community observes research promoting or justifying oppression, it should ensure that this research does not continue.
In other words, the truth, when it's inconvenient, should be squelched. There's a name for this. It's called fascism. And what's amazing is this girl is a senior. As you just said, this is the fruit of a Harvard education. After 4 years at Harvard, you conclude, or she has, that the truth, when inconvenient, ought to be suppressed. If she had absolute power, how many people would die? Many.
Well, what's interesting is that one of the pieces is she talks about specifically with some research that came out of the university from one professor around rape and how women, this professor said, they should be more modest, and that would stop rape because women need to be a little bit more modest. She took umbrage with that, as I think many people would, that it was somehow a woman's fault to be raped. And she said we should rally. Students should rally and make sure that this professor never gets published at this university again. What's wrong with rallying? That's what a university system does, right? A free-for-all of ideas.
Right, so women who wear sexy lingerie or wear a short skirt deserve to have sex taken from them, stolen from them. Doesn't make any sense. But I will say one thing. The way that she opens this piece is about a Harvard professor back in the 1970s who writes a piece called IQ. He gets a lot of backlash for it because he says that IQ is based on hereditary almost entirely, and it varies by race in particular. And there was backlash about it, and that's something that should be. But this seems just ridiculously extreme to get rid of academic freedom and instead have academic justice.
Again, this is what fascism looks like.
Millie Weaver reporting for Infowars.com. We are here in Akron, Ohio, out front of the Hillary for President headquarters. It's their Ohio Together campaign. Now, they had a scheduled event today between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. and Hillary supporters are all supposed to turn up. Well, this is what we see. We see a very small turnout, nearly, zero people really here. And on their door, they do have the event posted. The people inside do seem concerned that we're here. They seem like they've been caught red-handed. The fact that they even tried to take the sign down, but when they saw we were recording, they stopped. So this just goes to show, guys, really not much support. And this is crazy. So here you go. Let's take a look over here. Ohio Together, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then Sunday, 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. We are going to come back here tomorrow to see if maybe they get more support on Sunday. I doubt it.
Hi, quick question. Do you have a business card so that I could give it to a press guy?
No, I don't. But thanks for their information. If we need any questions answered, we can contact them.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, very interesting. They seemed very concerned that we were just out here taking video. Turn this down.
Hey, it's Harold.
Sorry, what's your name?
Harold?
Harold. Hi, Harold. I was just wondering, is the Hillary event still going on today in Akron?
I'm sorry, who is this?
My name's Millie.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Millie.
I'm not sure. I don't know all the events off the top of my head, but I'm happy to check for you. Is there an email you can give me and I'll shoot you a note right back?
Sure, yeah, that'd be great. All right, so we're here and the doors are locked. It doesn't look like anybody is here. Beaver reporting for Infowars.com. Today we're going to go deep behind enemy lines and see if we can infiltrate Hillary Clinton's campaign. I am wearing a disguise right now, looking like a third-wave feminist liberal Hillary supporter. So let's see if we can go and find out what exactly is happening in Hillary's camp. What's interesting is I signed up on her little website in order to retrieve the time and date for the Philadelphia event, register or whatever to get that information. So I received a phone call and they're like, we really want you to come help out. Actually, this is it, I think. Democratic Party. Oh, snap.
Okay, well, I'll send cars down a little further. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, can we help you?
Hi, I was invited to come here to help out.
That's wonderful. He'll be right back. You want to take a chair there or something? Or
Okay.
just look around?
Yeah, do you mind if I look around?
Go right ahead.
So half the family went to bed and half the family.
Hi, this young lady came in and wants to work.
Yeah, I was called and invited by, I don't remember his name.
Bill.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Millie.
Millie.
Yeah. So what's the deal?
Okay, we're just calling people to see if there are for us or against us. I just got a refuse that was, yeah, let's just say it was an adamant refusal.
An adamant one? Like, what did they say?
Quit calling here, and then I cleaned it up.
Say, like, if people bring up things like they're concerned about, like, her health or just other things like the Benghazi thing, or
if they say I'm voting for Trump because Hillary's a liar, then you can get into the fact that she is outlied by Trump by about 300%, and that is well documented. And the lies are not really lies in the first place.
Nothing was marked classified at the time I sent or received it.
All right, all I know is that's different what you said, Mark.
110 emails
in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received.
Do you know if there's going to be any more Hillary speaking events here?
I've got to say probably. The entire cast of The West Wing will be around the state. But Bernie was just in Kent State Saturday.
Only 150 people turned out at a Hillary event put on by Bernie Sanders. An event in Canton, Ohio was canceled as well, probably because the low turnout.
We only have about 50 days till the election, and this is a very, very close race, and we're running out of time.
How's it looking so far for Ohio? Just from like an inside, like kind of working in the campaigns?
Yesterday, polls came out one had Trump by 3.
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Basically, we have a script, but you don't need it. What happens more often is they're not home.
Oh.
We only let it, like I say, ring five times or 6. That would be my that's my coordinator.
That's a ringtone? Oh my gosh.
Doesn't it sound like fun?
Oh, yeah.
By the way, really appreciate your help. Okay, Bill. Enough of that. Every once in a while, you'll catch a live one. When you do catch a live one, you won't know what to say.
I sat here and I pull out of myself stutter. I'm from the Democratic something or other.
Feminists all across the country observed what they called Equal Pay Day this past week. Senator Hillary Clinton marked the occasion by reintroducing the Paycheck Fairness Act. It's legislation designed to force employers to pay women what they pay men. More than 40 years after Congress passed the Equal Pay Act, the debate is still raging. At the heart of it is a single, often repeated statistic, that women earn just 76 cents for every dollar that a man makes. The notion is so pervasive, so unchallenged, it's become a cultural given. Everyone knows it's true. But our first up guest argues that, no, it isn't true. Warren Farrell is a longtime feminist, the only man to be elected 3 times to the New York City board of the National Organization for Women. He spent years protesting the wage gap between the sexes. But a new look at the numbers has changed his mind. His latest book is entitled Why Men.
There are chores with the family, with their chores in the workplace. The women who own their own businesses say, I want to be home, I want to be my own boss, I want to have flexibility with the family. And men who own their own businesses say, if I have children, then I want to be earning more money. If I don't have children, I want to be home. So that gave me another thought. I said, well, wait a minute, maybe I should look at the difference between people who have children and people who don't. So I looked at never married women who have never had children and compared them to never married men who had never had children, and found out that never married women who never had children earn 117% of what never married men who never have children earn. In other words, when you take the children, the motivation for men to earn money out of the picture, the importance of what women are producing. So I looked at the statistics about women who own their own business. They have no bosses to devalue them. And women who own their own businesses only earn 49% of what men who own their own businesses earn.
They earn less.
They earn less. So in other words, having a boss is an advantage for a woman. So then I started to say, well, maybe there's a difference in goals between men and women. And sure enough, then I began to get on the right track. When you ask women who own their own businesses what their primary motivation is, way down the list is money. Only 29% say money is their primary motivation. Men, 76% say money is their primary motivation. So I began to see that when women own their own businesses and when women do work, they're balancing, definitely comparing apples and oranges. For example, and I started to come to this understanding when I was here in the middle of doing a demonstration, assuming that the gap in numbers was a gap that was reflective of discrimination. And I say to myself one day, wait a minute, if men earn $1 for each 76 cents that women earn for the same work, why would anybody hire a man to do anything? And I couldn't answer the question. And then I thought, well, wait a minute.
It's a great question, actually.
It's sort of like, I stumbled myself. But then I thought to myself, no, wait a minute. Maybe these male bosses are so discriminating against women that they don't value women enough, and they don't even see the...
And earn more. Mr. Farrell, thanks a lot for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So, deconstruct the myth. Why isn't it true, the Labor Department statistic, that women earn just 76 cents on every man's dollar? Why is that not true?
Well, because there's basically 25 things that are different between what men do in the workplace and what women do in the workplace. Every single one of those 25 things leads to men earning more money, but every single one of those 25 things leads to women having better lives. So here I have a 17 and 18-year-old daughter. I'm saying to myself, what do I want to help them earn more money, or do I want to help them earn a better life, have a better life? And I realize that what I want to help them do is make their own decisions about how much money, how many trade-offs do I make.
So you're saying that when the Labor Department comes up with these numbers, they're not comparing apples and apples?
They're comparing